Welcome to On the Record with Tiffany and Kevin, powered by Texas Kidney Foundation, where we are unapologetically patient first and building coalitions with others to address kidney health for all.
All right, and we're back with On the Record with Kevin and Tiffany, or Tiffany and Kevin, on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, home of conservative talk radio. And we are back, Tiffany. It's been a while since we've been in the studio, girl.
Yes, I see you back.
Yeah, you the one been
coming
absent.
Up in here talking trash.
Yeah, he the one been in FCC. What you call it? He's the one been absent.
That's right. He's been MIA, not us.
Yeah.
We've been holding it down. We're here. We're talking to the people, trying to keep everybody up, give them some hope.
I've been working in the background.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it when you're sleeping?
You got you in there. She got you there cooking breakfast, send the kids off packing lunch.
Yeah, she thought I'm sleeping.
Paper bag lunches.
I'm being funny. He does. He has been working vigorously. Well, let's talk about what you've been working on, which is the nation's first genetic testing done by a patient-led community organization. Texas Kidney Foundation held on October 5th the first patient-led genetic testing event. And it's an educational screening event. People really don't understand genetics or precision medicine. And so we brought a test that tests for 385 rare genetic alleles. Specifically, we were looking for APOL1 mediated kidney disease, which is the rare kidney disease that I have, and I've lost 16 family members too. So we wanted to bring that disease to the forefront, and look for it.
Yeah, and when you're designing these things, there's a lot, because with genetics is complicated, and it's even more complicated to explain it to people who don't have a background. And the little bit that I know of, right? So I always tell people, hey, just break it down. Talk to me like I am a kindergartner, right? And you're trying to convince me of this. And if they just put it in very simple forms, right? And unfortunately, a lot of times when you're with a lot of scientists, they want to tell you all the minutia, and in their brains it's not the minutia, but it's the minutia. And so you really work on people explaining it to people.
And that's really what took the longest was getting the scientists to speak regular English, so that all of the people that we were working with could understand it. And it took us probably the workflow, just working out the workflow, was about 18 months, right?
Yeah, and then not just the workflow is important, but also the story flow, right? Because a lot of times, not a lot of times, all the time, they want to just give you facts and figures. Well, most people don't really care about facts and figures. They want to know, how does it relate to me, and what's the story? How do you incorporate that? And so we have a process in which we incorporate that, and we make it about the individual in front of us. It takes a little bit longer, but people walk away going like, oh yeah, okay, I understand why it's important. You don't have to understand all the details of it, right? You just need to know, why is this important, and what
does it mean to me and my health?
What does it mean to me, and what do I do about it? And so that's the point. And
so we had to work all of that out, and we did. And part of the process, we had a nephrologist come in, and that was Dr. Don Wesson, who we've had on this show before. And he's our chief medical advisor. We recruited him specifically because of his work in community settings, doing screening.
Yeah, he's sort
of
like
screenings in general, health screening.
He's sort of like the OG of all this, right? So I forget how old he is, but he's
72.
Yeah, he's 72.
He doesn't look like it, but he's 72.
A while, and so he did a lot of the first in community stuff.
He's been doing this for 50 years. He's been doing. He graduated from medical school.
Why are you gonna be putting his age out like that?
Hey, he puts it out there. He already put it out there. I didn't put it out there just for the record, guys. I didn't put it out there. He did. He's not ashamed of his age and wisdom, but he graduated from medical school like when I was 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
So he's been, and his entire career,
Reg
his
is
whole
like
life
8,
is dedicated.
9?
I know. Yeah, like we were babies. We were just running around.
Yeah, I know.
Stuff.
Dr. Weston, he went to see Gone with the Wind in the theater.
I'm gonna play that back for him so he can hear.
Man. So I'm the dude that speak for the layman people, the people that don't understand the regular, the scientific. So it's like, hey, only thing the people know when you say 380 genetic gene tests, you feel like if I was a person, I go to some event like that, I would say, hey, man, I got checked for everything. So it's like, man, they did 308. All my genes, everything is cool. So it's time.
Well, the reason why, what made us go down that road is that, as Reg knows this, but I'll say it here, when I first was called into this job, because I really do believe God brought me to this space, I thought there was something genetic happening to my family. I thought my family was going through something genetic, but I didn't. Nobody had anything that they could tell me about genes except for polycystic kidney disease. They were like, there's a genetic kidney disease, but it's polycystic kidney disease, and that's not what you have. And I was like, there have to be other genetic kidney diseases, but nobody really knew that much about it. And so I flew to DC and started talking to people at the National Institutes of Health and people and scientists. I went to the Kidney Precision Medicine Project, and that was where I found out about APOL1 mediated kidney disease, and it didn't have that name yet. It was just that there was a genetic allele, APOL1, and so it was only discovered in 2010. So that genetic allele was only 7 years old when I came into this. So my disease was only 7 years old, which meant that there was no molecule built. There were no therapeutics. In order to build a medicine, medicines are built on top of a molecule. So they build the molecule first, and then they build the medicines from the molecule.
All right, girl, you just put half the audience to sleep because I know
I'm just telling you. I'm saying this because it took... For us to be at the stage where we're testing for it, there was no test then. So when we walked in the door, there was no test. And that's why I say that God brought us into it, because there was no test. The test was developed in 2020. It wasn't brought to the marketplace until 2020. And we just brought it to the general public for free in 2024.
Yeah, and as a patient organization, and that's important.
Yeah,
as a
patient-led organization.
Because what I've found since I've been working here with the foundation, with you guys and being on the board, is that people are self-focused. So when doctors talk about communication, they talk about it in terms they understand, and most of us we're just like, what the hell did he just say? I don't understand anything he just told me. That's oftentimes, and I'm serious. That's oftentimes what we get when we do screenings in neighborhoods. So people will say, hey, my doctor told me this, and this. And
what does that mean?
What does that mean? And so when we walk them through in layman language, say this is what that means, and we give them a list of questions to go back and follow and ask questions, and then they often come back and they'll say, hey, I took those questions and I asked them to the doctor and they really made sense to me, right? And so that's what we're doing. So with the genetic
So how did we get to that, Mr. Smith?
So we got through that because I'm just an awesome kind of guy. That's how we got to that. No, my background is I spent 12 years working with Merrill Lynch in operations and customer service. So I am a bit of an expert on how to acquire and retain clients. right? That's what I do. Well, once we get you as a client, we retain you. You're not leaving. We got you, right? We're going to make sure. I'm serious. So we're going to make sure in terms of how we frame things, on how we communicate, on how we talk to you. We're going to be doing all of those things that are going to maintain the relationship. And you're going to want to stay, and you're going to say, we're the most awesome people, even if there's a problem and you're mad at us, right? And so even if you're highly upset with us, we're going to talk it through, and we're going to work that out. I'm actually good at that, believe it or not, Tiffany.
Oh yes, he's excellent at that.
So that's one of the things that I'm good at is finding and getting clients, and then maintaining those client relationships. That's what I got paid to do at Merrill Lynch. And so that's the number one thing. And then also something that I'm really, really good at, right, not to brag on myself, humble brag, is that I'm also good at figuring out processes and procedures and developing relationships. And I know I've said this a lot on the show, but my main task when I came as a consultant here and on the board was to figure out how things worked at screenings, like, because people tell you on the board we come up with all kind of stupid ideas, right? We go, we should do this and we should do that,
because they're not there.
Right? And you're like, that's not going to work, right? And then after about 6-7 months there, I figured out how things actually worked, and then also in terms of relationships, like who are the relationships that we should have with, and what organizations are they, right? Are there, right? Because a lot of times you'll say, hey, Tiffany is the lead over at Texas Kidney Foundation. Yeah, but who else is on her team, and what do they know? Because you might want to influence Tiffany, right? But you probably have a better influence if you know the people on her team. You can reach out to those individuals, communicate the logistics to them, and then they can translate that for Tiffany.
So I have a question for you, because I want to get to what it was that you came to the table with, because I would say that one of the things you came to the table with is a view of the customer service relationship that healthcare presents.
Yeah, healthcare is a monopoly. It is, right? It's a monopoly, right? You either go to this physician or you're going to have problems. So it's a monopoly. And I don't know if they have verbally believed this or not, but they act like it. They act hey, you don't have any options.
And so that results in what kind of customer service?
Well, that at the screenings, okay, nurses, I'm about to take y'all out and give y'all a few smacks, right? Nurses, for the most part, healthcare professionals, they are professionals, right? They want to get you in and get you out. And that's not the point of our educational screenings. Our educational screenings are to educate you about what the numbers mean for you and how you need to track those, so that the next time when you go back to your physician, you'll be able to ask intelligent questions, and you'll be able to ask, hey, what about this and what about that? And you'll have our goal is to give you a base knowledge, so that you can, out of that base knowledge, you can now ask questions. So like Reg, it's sort of like with you, right? With comedy, you know that there's a base level of things you got to have in a good joke. You got to have a set of things. If you have those set of things in a good joke, it's always going to come off well, right? And it's the same thing with knowledge. If you have most diseases are set up like this. They're always staged. There's a stage 1 through whatever the number is, right? You see that with cancer. You see that with liver disease. Same thing with kidney disease. It's staged. There's a stage 1 through 5. And in kidney disease, the lower that number goes, right, it's a bad situation, right? So you start losing more kidney function, right? So that's 1 through 5. So there's a cause. And then there's always going to be some degree of damage. They're going to measure that in some way.
But let's go back to the customer service part.
And so the part where the customer service part is, you're the customer and I'm here to serve you. And most people in the healthcare industry, they think that is somehow weak or somehow they lose power. You're not weak and you don't lose power. What you're trying to do is help this person maintain their health, not just treat their health. And that's the view there. Is that where we're going?
Well, that's where I was asking you what you came to the table with on that. You gave us a lot of information, so thank you. But
well, I know one thing, man. You know, dealing with you guys, you know, the time that I've been dealing with you, it's crazy because I remember sitting in college and looking at classes, math class, whatever lecture halls we used to be in, like psychology. Those are the bigger classes, and you know, teachers, the professor be speaking. And you know, it's not clicking, right? You know, but you guys made it so simple. It's like when you was just getting ready to say something, it's like I already know in my head, okay, he finna talk about this. He finna talk about the numbers. He finna talk about it. It feels so good to know you feel smart now. It's like I already know. I anticipate what you're gonna say just by the words that you're saying. You know, so it's like, and that's the cool thing about it, man. I like how you guys just break everything down so simple. You know, it's not like, you know, you sitting in the class and it take you a while to comprehend what's going on. You know, I felt kind of smart at that moment right now when you said about the numbers. I was like, man, because in my head I was already thinking that I was already ahead of you.
Yeah,
I just threw that out there.
And that is the whole point in doing what we're doing. When he came in, he was coming in with that customer service background. Mm-hmm. He was coming in having looked at the perspective of, okay, what are we doing here, and who's engaged with the organization? And one of the things he then went back and evaluated was, who should we be engaged with? Yeah. Okay, who's engaged?
Yeah.
But who should we be engaged with? And that's when community health workers came into play.
Yeah, community health workers are some of the most awesome people on the planet, from my view, because they are really empathetic and customer centered, right? And they're constantly thinking of ways to help people, right? Like, okay, you got this situation going on, and we know the end point you need to be at, but how do we get you there, right? And so there's a lot of that, and so there's a lot of. I'm not going. This is like they're wheeling and dealing, right, and figuring out how do we get them there. Hey, I know someone who knows this person, and we're helping them navigate the system.
They're a great connection to resources, because that's really a lot of what their training is. It's in helping them to helping people to locate resources
and understand the systems that they're operating in.
Yes, and so whereas that used to be what was done with social workers. That used to be only social workers who did that. Social workers are still doing that. It's just that when you look at the healthcare system, social workers and nurses are really overburdened right now. You've got a shortage of social workers, a shortage of nurses. They're being asked to work longer hours, more cases, and do things that they just don't have the bandwidth to do. So community health workers are, in our situation, a wonderful bridge to many of the social workers, nurses, and other healthcare professionals that we deal with. We can handle a lot of resource placement and resource connection for our constituents without overburdening those social workers and nurses that we're working with.
You said that really nice. So that is, and then understanding the system, because oftentimes with nurses and y'all going to send me hate mail, I don't care. With nurses and social workers, they are invested in the system to keep the system going, right? And they know what their particular jobs and tasks are. They got a caseload of however many they have on their caseload.
Usually too many.
Yeah, and nurses, they're trying to keep people alive, right? So their immediate goal is, I got to keep you alive, man. Yeah. Whereas, in the social workers, I got to get you to the right resource over here. And then with the community health worker, right? And I identify with that because you're navigating the system. Like, how do I get, the doctor said you needed this, this, and this. Okay. You're looking at, okay, you need that, but what is the outcome they're trying to get you? And can that medicine you have is pretty pricey. Can we get a substitute? Can we break it up, and that medication is made up of 2 or 3 medicines? Can we get those medicines broken up into their individual pieces, and we get the price down cheaper, right?
Yes.
I'm navigating through this situation with the insurance, right? How can we, it's like, what's the end goal? The end goal is this particular treatment. How do I help you navigate you through that? So that's often the situations we're at.
He really helped us define what our role was, because when I walked in the door, We
and by the way, I didn't pay her any money for this. This is totally free. I'm shocked by her.
And I paid him in hugs and kisses. So that was that's all I had to give. That's all I had to give. But when he came into this, he helped us define our role, because a lot of things, you can really, really do great good for the community when you understand your role. Mm-hmm. Because our team didn't understand our role. We thought we were supposed to be
everything to everybody.
We kept hearing, yes, we were trying to be everything to everybody. We had scholarships and we were trying to provide continuum of care. No, none of those. First of all, you can either be
a scholarship organization or patient advocacy
or a patient advocacy organization. So we chose patient advocacy and got rid of a lot of things so that we could focus. But we also defined, okay, who should be handling continuum of care? Because what we should be and what we are is a bridge. Mm-hmm. We are a bridge between the patient and resources. So that could be a practitioner, that could be an entity that they need to access in order to get a practitioner, whatever that may be. It could be a provider, whatever the resource is that the individual in front of us needs.
Okay, I want to say something that's going to be, and it's the model that I use in my head. I see this thing as just one big Merrill Lynch, right? One big Merrill Lynch, Bank of America.
Well, of course, you love Merrill, so that's why.
I got a lot of good training from them, right? And so I see
Merrill
it
Lynch,
as,
y'all always getting plugged on this show.
I see it as, let's say if Reggie's our client, right? And so he's our client, and he has certain, whatever his particular needs are. Let's say one day he decides he wants to buy a jet, right?
Now you trying to sway Reg over to Merle. What you doing?
Say he wants to buy a jet, right? He wants to buy the Cessna jet. And so he and his financial advisor sit down with him, and so we start connecting him with all the resources that we have for him to buy a jet. His goal is a jet. He don't want to give up any of his assets, so we're going to figure that part of it out. And so our goal is to connect him and navigate that. And you would be surprised, like let's say I got the jet, it's going to be the Cessna, I want it black, he got all the colors he wants, and so we're moving him down that process, right? And somewhere, some guy in the back office over in, I don't know, in lending decides, hey, Reggie, this is 60 days. We need to have this at 55 days, no longer than 55 days. And so the FA is going to come to me and go, hey, my client, he wants to get this jet, and they're giving me grief about 5 days, right? So then my job is to come in and start navigating in the background of the corporate enterprise in order to get Reggie his jet that we over by 5 days. So you got to figure out, is this a legal situation, that this rule that says it has to be less than 60 days or whatever the rule is it legal, right? Is that something where we have to comply with some legal bureaucracy, or is that something that's internal? Right? So we go through all of that, and we're navigating, and I'm helping you navigate all of that. So by the time we get to Reg doesn't even, all Reg knows is on this day he got his jet.
And you gave Reg white glove service.
We gave you white glove service. So that's the mindset that I have. And so when we're dealing with people in the community, and we're doing screenings, is that some people you got to give them a little bit of a touch up, and by touch up I mean give them the business.
Okay,
but also what we do is
not focus on your touch up.
We're giving people service, and we're treating people like we would a relative, right?
That's
a relative that we like.
And that was one of the first things that we said, and that he said is, when people come in, you got to look them in the eye and treat them like you would want them to treat your grandmother.
Yeah, and one of the things that they do,
treat them like that. And if you can't do that day, if you're just having a day where you can't do that day, don't come that day. Yeah, you don't need to be there. Call us.
Yeah.
But you're going to come in and be your best and give them your best. every day.
And so, and the other thing that I find just annoying is that people don't treat you like you're a parent or a loved one, and give you the information. They can explain this information, right?
Stop and explain.
Explain. I have a friend who was trying to talk me into, who was presenting genetic testing to me, right? And he was giving me on and everything. And at the end, I said, "That sucked, dude. You're horrible at this. Let me give you some ways to frame this.
Show him.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you how to frame this, right? And frame this in the right way. Everybody will say yes to it. You're framing it as, hey, I could be destined if I find it out. I'm gonna.
You probably going down, girl.
Going down.
That's the way. That's the way he said it, and it was like.
It's like no. So you.
This is a terrible delivery.
So the reason we want to include genetics as part of our screening is that gives people a really good base to say, okay, I know this is genetic or not genetic. If it turns out there's something going on genetic, now you know how to track. Whenever you get your blood work, I always want these two tests. So you can see if anything is happening.
And there are breakthroughs, therapeutics.
So if you have a specific genetic thing and you see your numbers going down, they can do, what is it called, tailored or
precision medicine.
Precision medicine, right, to address your specific issue.
It's amazing what can be done, but you have to know that something needs to be done in order for you to take action.
That's awesome, Tiffany. And we'll be right back on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, home of Conservative Talk Radio.
Real change in healthcare starts with you. It's not just about community engagement. It's about stepping into the political arena for the health of our people. We're calling on you to join our fight against rare and chronic kidney disease. With your involvement, we can reshape policy and transform local health. This is your moment to make a difference, to be a part of something bigger than you that values action over words. Join us and be the change you wish to see in our local community.
And we're back on the record with Tiffany and Kevin on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. See, I put you first, right?
Yes, you always do, Mr. Smith.
So since we're asking questions, I got one for Kev. Now, would you consider yourself, the organization like something like an advocacy for people that have kidney problems? That you advocate for them when they don't know how to do it for themselves.
That is a big thing that we do, and I take that personally.
And the reason why, like when we first got into this, one of the first things we saw was that most of the advocates, and not just in kidney, but across the board, most advocates have worked for or currently work for industry in some way. They work for diagnostics, or they work for a research institute, or they work for dialysis, or some form of industry. They're a dedicated professional in that part of the industry.
But they're not advocating from a patient-centered view.
It's not that they're not sincere advocates. What I'm saying is that just based on, I like to study. So systems theory. Systems theory teaches you that anybody that is a part of a system, no matter how neutral you think you are,
you're not.
You are the longer you are within that system, you're becoming indoctrinated or having certain things ingrained in you just because of the system.
And the system
says... It's just the way that it is. You're around something all day, every day.
But the
you'll
system
start to go
says,
along
Tiffany,
with that.
That it's the patient's problem. It's the patient's fault. If you just did what we told you to do, you'd be fine.
Right. And that's the narrative. When the reality is...
They don't know.
The first way... Well, here's the reality of what's happening in kidney disease. Because this one thing could change the numbers, impact the numbers in a 5-year period. Kidney disease is detected in its early stages, but it is not reported to the patient until stage 3B, after you've been at 3B for 3 months. If in stages 1 and 2, when kidney disease was detected, if the practitioner simply walked the patient through, you have the beginning stages of kidney disease. One, we have therapeutics right now that, when are they the most effective? Beginning stages of kidney disease. Mm-hmm. They can actually help you reverse kidney disease if you get them in the beginning stages of kidney disease.
Definitely slow it down.
Yes. They can. We have therapeutics that can slow it down. We have mixtures of they're talking about it all over the place. SGLT2 inhibitors. Those are the ones that are having such a great impact in over a third of the kidney disease patients, and having a positive impact on cardiovascular. But if we simply, this is the only disease where you can see it, a practitioner could see it, and not say a word to the patient. And that's what's happening often. Not always, but often. And that's a travesty, because you have a window of time. And let's be clear on this. Kidney disease takes a while to move from stages 1 to 3B, depending on what form it is.
But for people in high-risk groups, right, and that high-risk group is if you are high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, right, genetic causes, if you happen to be black or brown. And I think that's more a proxy for economics, right? You're in a high risk. And if you're 65 or older, if you have one or more of those 6 things, right, you're in a high-risk group.
And family history.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the high risk is really diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. That's the 4 things you need to look at. Your race is not as important as those 4 things. Now,
but I disagree with that, Tiffany.
But certain with genetics, when we talk about genetics. The reason why we were looking at APOL1 is that APOL1 moves at twice the rate of other forms of kidney disease. So it does move pretty quickly.
Now, I say race because race is a proxy for me for people who have sub-Saharan African descent.
Yeah,
because that group of people,
APOL1 is.
They have that, and if they are aware that that's what's going on in my body, in their bodies, and they can use that heat map, and when we talk about the heat map, it actually has suggested, recommended treatments in each of those different boxes on the heat map, and people can get that, right? And so when you say, am I an advocate? Yes, I believe in advocating for patients, so especially around kidney disease. But my new passionate thing, which we have coming up here, is transplantation. For me, the system what grinds people down, and it puts up more barriers, more soft barriers, preventing people from, 1, getting on a waiting list, right, on the waiting list, 2, understanding the list, right, understanding, like with kidney transplants, right, like what's what in that whole realm. And I think I went back and I read the article again that Nate Robinson, ESPN did with Nate Robinson, I think I pronounced it right.
Yep,
Robinson. And I was just reading through there, through the whole thing, and I'm reading it from a view of an insider. I was thinking, okay, and I want to ask him all these questions, like, okay, who did you talk to here? What did they tell you? And all these different levels, there should have been people telling him at each step of the process, here's what's going on. So, but they don't tell you that information, but then they hold you responsible for the information, that you should know the information, which drives me crazy.
That's what I'm trying to get to, which is that this disease is bifurcated, and part of what you are talking about with Nate Robinson is that you're saying they, but it's different doctors that Nate is dealing with. It's not a one they; it's one. He's got a primary care physician. That primary care physician isn't necessarily talking to the dialysis doctors, and they weren't. That was one of the first things that I noticed with patients in general, not just Nate, because what's happening with Nate is so typical of what happens across the country. And what's so important about Nate is, one, Nate just gets into your heart. He's just a really sweet person. I'm sure he doesn't want to hear that because he's a tough guy that jumps over people. But what got to me with Nate is that I was talking to 3 other kids, the same younger than Nate, going through the same thing. Is how what a Superman he is, but also a regular guy, just a regular guy going through this system that is so ambiguous. Even the insulation of money and status didn't do anything for him in terms of getting him what he needed. Yeah,
and you see that though. You see that there's a couple state representatives here in Texas, right? And they had transplant. They got transplants, right? Had them for a while, and I was sitting there listening to the story, and I was thinking, even with these guys, they didn't get the best that they could have gotten, right? Which is through the exchange. That's the best match you can get.
One of the state representatives, he's a senator, Senator Kelly Hancock. I remember listening to him tell his story, and he has IgA nephropathy.
That's difficult, yeah.
And it's one of those that it is a genetic kidney disease, and it's diagnosed. Usually, it can be diagnosed at birth, but usually people figure it out somewhere in their 20s or 30s. You know, they'll figure out, I have IgA nephropathy. Well, something's wrong, and then they'll test them, and that's what it is. So when he had a doctor tell him, hey, you have this, you're going to be on dialysis. You'll probably be on dialysis in the next year or two. Gave him a short time frame for dialysis, and he said he fired his whole care team.
Should have.
Because he wasn't getting any information. Nobody was. He didn't feel like they were right, and he actually fought it off for over 20 years.
Yeah, with his diet and adjusting that with medication and those types of things, you can do that.
And then when his kidneys did, finally fail, when he went into renal failure, he started down the process of transplantation and got a transplant.
But even that could have been a smoother process through paired exchange. And so there's a lot of these things you don't know, like paired exchange. The
National Kidney Registry. Every time we have this discussion about the National Kidney Registry, and that was one of the...
And that just gets me annoyed. I get really passionate and hot about that because there's this tool. We're talking about people's lives, right? You only get one. You don't get to come back. That I know of. You people believe that. That's all. You can believe that. But my information is you only get this one try. And even if you could come back, I don't want to roll the dice. What if I come back as a bug? Don't want to do it. All right? So you get this one life. And so for me, life is precious. So
you'd probably be a dung beetle or something.
Why wouldn't you want to give every single person the most optimal outcome that they could get? Right? So they'll tell you got to have a match. Well, if it were me and my kidneys fail right now, right, what I would do is I'd say, okay, I got a person who wants to give me a kidney. They're a match, but I want to go through the National Kidney Registry or some type of registry to get an optimal match.
Yep.
Right? Because I want the optimal because I only get one shot and this person has made this sacrifice to give me their kidney. So I want to make sure we're matching. It's the best possible match I can get. Right? And so you would think that thing would go through and they would establish that and work it out. But even now, they're dragging their feet. They're still got to do a study. And I'm like, no. You already got a group of people who've already done this. They're doing it right now.
Right. So that was part of us creating knowledge to action, is that there was there's an people are overwhelmed with all of these pieces of information, and some of them are good and some of them aren't. So how do they decide? So we were like, okay, let's pull together a team of experts. And let's have the experts go through and show us what the optimum options are. What are they? What are the best options? And then let's present those. Let's focus our attention around building programs, taking this translational research and putting it into action?
Well, we already know what the best is. So the best is to prevent people from getting from losing kidney function, right? And those high risk groups, you want to start treating them in stages 1 and 2. I mean, that's settled research, right?
Right. So that's what we did. We got the experts to tell us what the best options were,
and that's what we're bringing to the community.
And that's what we built our programs around and doing. So we don't talk about all the other registries. We talk about the best one, the National Kidney Registry, because it has the broadest database, and it gives you the best options.
And newsflash, if you currently say, well, I'm on a waiting list at my transplant center, right? I bet you they're using their internal database if you do an exchange and not the National Kidney Registry database. Ask them that, because I can guarantee you, if you've been on that waiting list at a place and you're doing a kidney exchange, right? Unless you have some really rare situation going on, right? You are probably being on an internal database. Guaranteed.
Well.
Sorry, Tiff, you got me started.
You can be on both.
Yeah.
You're not limited to only their internal database.
And you can be on multiple. You can be registered at multiple transplant centers too. That's something else they don't tell you.
And you want to register in different regions. There are optimal ways to do things to get yourself the best chances. And so that was really what we put our energy and resources in, is making sure that people understood what their best options were. And we're starting to see that pay off. With things like at-home test kits coupled with telemedicine. That opens up access to care in places that didn't have it. In rural counties, because we had 42 counties in Texas that do not have primary care physicians.
They got dialysis centers.
Yes, many of them.
But also, Tiffany...
So we spent our time and energy on making sure that we could take this translational research and create models that could be duplicated.
Yeah.
And that could bring success to people in the community.
Okay, for every program we have 6 of them, right? We have 6 programs. I've read a good 30, 40 research papers attached to every single one of them, and we've basically culled it down to like 3-4 studies that undergird what we do, right? So since we're talking about this, these are just facts, right? So on our screenings are based on 4 top-notch papers on doing early detection in the community, and then there's one gentleman, I don't know if they did a paper out of this, if Dr. Richard Gibney did a paper. I know he passed away. But his research on upstream treatment of kidney disease, of the early stages of kidney disease with SGLT2 inhibitors, is excellent research. I think he got some of that from those guys over in Sweden. Is it Sweden? I don't know.
Yeah,
it was
in Sweden. Yes, public school was Sweden.
In Sweden, right? But that research is top-notch research. So we've taken that and all the ideas in those papers, right? And then my understanding and practice of customer service, and we've applied that. So that's why, like with genetic testing, if we wanted to just blow the numbers out, we could have did 80 people on genetic testing, but we did about 30 people. So one, we get the process down,
it was
we understand
workflow.
it, and they understand the workflow.
We were working through,
so that we provide good service, right? So the second thing that's a big
workflow and the messaging, making sure that the on-site messaging was appropriate for the community that we're serving, because every community is different. Just like precision medicine should be applied to the individual, then one can step back just a bit and apply a precision medicine lens to communities.
Yeah.
So every community is different. Every little slice of the community is different. So we, whenever we go into a new space, and by new space I mean like a new hub, and that was a new hub for us, then we check out, okay, what are the people like that are coming in? Who are we attracting in this particular space? And how do they want to be treated as a community, approached? What do they need? What are the needs for this group?
That's a long, fancy way of saying don't be Don't be a jerk, right? Yeah. Just go into people's communities, being nice and a learner.
Because the goal is to be consistent. It's not to have 1,500 people show up to one event. The goal is to be consistent, consistently there, so that when that bad moment comes, maybe this family is doing just fine when you see them in 2024, but when we see them in 2026, something's going on.
But also the thing is, Tiffany,
and they know that they can come to this place because we're going to be there. That's what the goal is there. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, to me, you guys sound like some quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? It's the whole organization is like quarterbacks. You throwing passes out there. All people got to do is just catch it.
Yeah,
it's like every aspect of the kidney disease, from first being diagnosed to transplants. To eating plants to preventing transplants. You guys got it all. It's like it's like a quarterback. You just sit back and just give people the information that they need, the solutions that they need, and the assistance that they need. It's simple. Yeah. You guys is a one-stop shop like Walmart.
The Walmart of kidney disease.
I wouldn't say it is. but I try to be extremely focused from the patient's perspective, and I want to treat it as if it was my nephews, right, or my mother or my daughters, right. I want to give them the information in a way that they understand, and that's what we spent the last 12 to 18 months perfecting that. And so we have a process, right, that when we educate people at our screenings, we're actually educating them. And so right now we're duplicating that by training more people to carry forth this process. And for us, it's not the money. Lord knows it's not the money. But for us, it's really is to be patient advocates, and I have this burning passion to not want to see people get screwed over, and I feel like the system does that to you. Well, and I know we always say black and brown people, right? But there's a couple. But white people are impacted by this, and they make up half of the people who lose kidney function.
We're all being impacted.
We're all being impacted by it.
That was why we brought the genetic testing, is because it actually those 385 tests cover genetic alleles that are
but it's not just the testing, right?
They cover genetic alleles that are prevalent in black people, are prevalent in white people, prevalent in Asian people, prevalent in Hispanic people. So there's, anybody can take the test and figure out what's going on with them if there's a history of this.
Yeah, but see, here's what makes us unique, right? It's not just you take the test and then they follow up and tell you yay or nay, right? Is that you take the test and we tell you how to use that information. It's literally taking that knowledge and information and putting it into action, right? Yeah. It's not enough to hear. And I sound like Rev Jones. Okay, I heard you preaching on the stream the other day, right? It's not enough that you understand what the word is. You got to do what it says, right? So it's not enough to understand, or you have this. What does that mean, right? You have this situation going on, and this is how you monitor it. Here's the questions that you need to ask your doctor. And if that doctor, you're asking all these questions because we want you moving in the right path. And so you have information that you can act on. You need a kidney transplant? Hey, go back and ask these questions. Get this situation going, because we want to figure out what's going on with you specifically. So that'll tell you the action that you need to do. Because right now there's a lot of responsibility on us as patients, because healthcare workers get upset at us all the time saying, well, why are you telling them that? Because you aren't. That's why we're telling them how to use this information. That's why we're getting the questions. And our questions, right? We get people 10 questions. Those are from
Condigo.
Those are not just from Condigo. We got top-notch scientists. Don Weston, Jeffrey Kopp signed off on these 10 questions, and these are top-notch people in the field. So I know it seems like it's just Kevin and Tiffany here running a little organization. It's not, right? We are the front faces.
We recruit the best.
But Tiffany does a really good job at recruiting top-notch people. And we have top-notch people working with us, right? Same thing with our community health workers. We have top-notch community health workers, the best in my opinion, right?
Yes, we do have the best.
Right?
Martha is amazing.
Like when you think about Reg, I want to give you your flowers, right? That's new kid. That's new saying the kids are saying now. I want to give you your flowers.
Give you your flowers while you're here.
You were able to get us
in. It's not a new saying that my grandmother would say that. That is like
old saying.
My grandma said that.
Is Reg, you were able to get us in with people of all backgrounds, right? When they see your face, they're like, oh. It makes the entry so much easier to bring the information to people.
And it's so cool because, like I say, when I'm on the road and people come up to me and ask me after my shows about kidney disease, when I don't know something, I always send them right over to you guys and say, I tell you who would know this, who would know how to get you.
And people call me.
I know.
People call me and they're like, Bro man told me to call you, and I'm like, that's not his name, but okay. Yeah.
Because, you guys open up even though I went through it, but I found out so much that I can help other people, because when I was going through it, I was basically going through it by myself. I didn't, and fortunately enough, I had a good doctor that, took the kind of time that you guys like taking with people. And he really walked me through everything. I mean, I went through his own dialysis center and he was trying to get me out of there quick. He like, hey man, I don't want you to be in here. I put the catheter in your chest because I don't want to put it in your arm because I don't want you to be in here a year. And we got to get this, and that's how I found out about this change program. I didn't even know from my other doctor. So,
you had a really good, you had a good doctor.
I had a good doctor, good team, man. He put the team together. He said, I'm going to send you over to Keck Hospital. He wasn't even at the hospital. He was at another hospital in Long Beach. He's like, I'm going to send you to Keck. They, good people over there. I know those doctors, and, they did everything swiftly, man. I mean, as soon as I went on the registry, I got a kidney. Well, like my wife was my donor, but when I went on the registry, she had to, swap somebody else. It took 15 minutes
to match.
15 minutes. As soon as I went on, 15 minutes, they was like, we already got this. We got a donor. Boom, 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 and she give hers, and boom. And, so that's some of the kind of things that people should understand about your guys' organization, that you try to make things go smoothly, quickly, and as simple and easy as possible, So when you have somebody like that on your side, on your team, that's the beginning. That's the foundation. You have that good foundation behind you, man. I mean, it'll make it so much better. You don't have to feel like you're alone going through this, man. Because when you're going through it alone and you don't know, and you get the wrong type of people behind you, man, it could be a long, tedious, and very unpleasant experience.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to end, Tiffany, don't you?
Thank you, Reginald.
Thanks, Reg.
Oh, yeah, all right.
And you've been listening to On the Record with Kevin and Tiffany on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, home of conservative talk radio.
Our healthcare system is at a crossroads, especially for those battling rare and chronic kidney disease. Preventative care and effective treatments are there, but the path to access them is fraught with obstacles. We need policy change, system overhaul, and a commitment to making these solutions available. We're not just talking about rare and chronic kidney disease. We're talking about transforming how we care for every American. Stand with us, advocate for change, and ensure that our healthcare system serves the needs of all Americans, not just a few.